Okay, so think about it like this, right? Like where do you feel the safest and like most unobserved? Like in your bedroom when you're falling asleep. Or maybe your backyard when it's quiet. What if that feeling, that sense of privacy was just like a total lie, just ready to just fall apart?
That is kind of unsettling to think about. It really does make you question all the things that are going on that you don't see.
Right. And that's what's so interesting about this deep dive. So we're looking at, what looks like a totally peaceful place, a quiet neighborhood where nothing really out of the ordinary happens. But inside one of these homes, someone's entire sense of safety was destroyed. It's actually your story, and it's a powerful reminder that those feelings of privacy and safety can be totally shattered.
So he shared the story with us, and it's about a really disturbing discovery of hidden cameras. And it happened inside someone's house where they should feel safe. And what's really crazy is that it all started with something as normal as just interacting with your neighbor. This guy was a retired engineer and everyone knew him, just a seemingly nice guy.
Yeah.
Makes you think about how appearances can be so deceiving, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this guy was just like someone you trust, right? He would help out around the house and like give gardening tips, just normal neighbor stuff. That's what makes it so scary, because he seemed harmless. So finding a hidden camera behind a plant or something, it really makes you realize that you don't always know people's true intentions.
Yeah, and the homeowner didn't just find one camera, he found a bunch of them, hidden in places like the kitchen and even the bedroom. It goes way beyond just being watched, it becomes like a deep violation of their personal life. Just imagine knowing that your most private moments were being recorded.
Yeah, and like imagine finding out that the person who did all this was your neighbor, like someone they thought was a friend. That is just devastating. The trust they had was just destroyed, and they were left feeling incredibly vulnerable. Like, have you ever thought about how much we rely on that basic trust every day with like everyone?
So this is a super important moment in the story. The homeowner goes from feeling shocked and disbelieving to needing answers. They had to confront the neighbor. Can you imagine going to that neighbor's door? Like the sense of dread. It must have been awful.
And the worst part is, even when the homeowner confronted him, the neighbor tried to act innocent. Like, he denied everything and even laughed nervously. But come on, there were multiple hidden cameras. It was obvious. It's clear that something was seriously wrong with this guy.
It's interesting, right? Because eventually the neighbor did confess. And he did it in his own living room, surrounded by, just ordinary stuff, which makes the whole thing even weirder. He blamed it on his loneliness after his wife died. He was fixated on his neighbor. But even with that explanation, it doesn't change what he did.
No, it doesn't. He said, I didn't mean any harm, but that doesn't really matter. The homeowner's privacy was violated. Their trust was completely shattered. I think at that point, getting the police involved was the only option.
Yeah. So the police got involved, and they uncovered just how extensive this guy's surveillance was. There were months of recordings capturing everything, from totally mundane stuff to deeply private moments. And that's what's so disturbing. It reveals just how obsessed this guy was. The whole neighborhood was affected. People were shocked and scared. And it makes you wonder, how well do we really know the people around us?
Yeah. And in that moment, the homeowner just wanted to feel safe again.
Yeah.
So they got a whole security system. But as the story points out, you can only do so much to protect yourself physically, right? Like, the emotional scars were still there, the sleepless nights, the constant feeling of being watched. Those things don't just go away.
Exactly. The emotional impact of something like this is huge. The homeowner felt anger towards the neighbor, betrayed by someone they trusted. And maybe even a little sorry for this guy who's clearly disturbed.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process when someone you thought was kind uses that kindness to manipulate you.
Yeah. And that's where support comes in. The story talks about a friend who comes over just to be there. That kind of human connection can be so powerful after something traumatic. Even just sitting together in silence, it can make the homeowner feel less alone. It reminds them that they didn't do anything wrong.
Right, and that's where you start to see resilience. The homeowner takes steps to feel safer, they get that security system, they go to therapy, and they even take self-defense classes. They start taking back control, and that's really powerful. It shows how even after something terrible happens, people can find ways to heal.
And healing is a process, right? Like, the story talks about how the homeowner slowly starts to feel safe in their own home again, but they're still careful around their neighbors. Trust is a hard thing to rebuild, especially after something like this.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that healing doesn't always happen in a straight line. There are good days and bad days. Sometimes things will trigger those feelings of fear and anxiety. That's why therapy is so important. The story talks about how the homeowner's nightmares start to fade, and that's a big sign of healing.
The story also talks about the trial and how that brought a sense of justice. The neighbor was found guilty, but even with that, the emotional scars are still there. It was really interesting to hear the different sides of the story in court. Like, some people talked about how helpful the neighbor was, while others talked about how he was this creepy stalker. It really shows how complicated people can be and how easily we can be fooled.
Yeah, the guilty verdict definitely provided some closure for the homeowner and the neighborhood, but it didn't erase everything that had happened. The story mentions how the neighborhood felt quiet and uneasy after the trial, like everyone was trying to figure out how to move forward.
For the homeowner, healing was an ongoing process. They still checked their locks all the time and had nightmares sometimes, but they were also having more good days than bad days. That's progress, right?
Definitely. And throughout it all, the homeowner's friend was there for them. That constant support was so important. The story really shows that healing isn't about forgetting what happened, it's about learning to live with it and move forward.
But a big part of moving forward was letting go. The story talks about how the neighbor's house was sold to a young family. The sound of kids playing brought a new energy to the neighborhood. Life was starting to feel normal again.
But even years later, those memories could still come back unexpectedly. The homeowner learned to use those moments as opportunities to practice the coping skills they learned in therapy. They realized that they didn't have to be controlled by fear. They had become more vigilant, not paralyzed.
Time passed and the memories started to fade a little. New people moved into the neighborhood and life went on. The homeowner was still aware of the risks out there, but they were also more confident. They knew they could handle whatever came their way.
A lot of people wonder about forgiveness in situations like this. And the story kind of hints that true healing isn't always about forgiving the person who hurt you. Sometimes it's about finding the strength to move on and live your life.
Yeah, and there's this powerful part where the homeowner writes a letter to the neighbor, pouring out all their anger and pain.
Yeah.
But they don't actually send it. They just throw it away. And that act of throwing it away is like a symbol of letting go. They didn't need the neighbor to acknowledge their pain in order to heal.
The ending of the story is really beautiful. The homeowner starts gardening again, and their garden becomes the symbol of growth and resilience. The scars are still there, but they're not holding them back anymore. They've reclaimed their life.
So this deep dive was really intense.
Yeah.
We learned how easy it is to be deceived by appearances and how devastating it can be to have your privacy violated. It really makes you think about the trust we place in others and how important it is to protect ourselves. But it also shows the incredible resilience of the human spirit and how even in the darkest moments, there's always hope for healing.
Exactly. The homeowner's story is a powerful reminder that we're stronger than we think. Even when faced with betrayal and trauma, we can find ways to heal and move forward. Their journey is a testament to the human capacity for growth and resilience.
So what about you? Like, what does this story make you think about? Okay, have you ever had your trust betrayed? How did you deal with it?
And what about the idea of outgrowing the shadows? What does that mean for you? It's a powerful concept to think about, especially when we're faced with difficult challenges.
Thank you so much for listening to this deep dive with us. Your willingness to engage with these tough topics is what makes these conversations so meaningful. We'll see you next time. Okay, so today we're going like deep into some seriously creepy stuff. We've got these texts, copy and pasted texts, detailing this whole crazy experience someone had with like a stalker, a really bad one.
Yeah, some of this is pretty intense.
So we really want to like unpack all this and see how it like escalated, see how it went from like bad to worse and then even more worse.
Right.
And also like, what can we all learn from this? Like, what are the red flags?
Absolutely. I think there's some really critical takeaways here for anyone who's listening.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's just jump right in. So like, picture this, right? You're at home,
Okay.
Just chilling, and your phone buzzes. You get a text, but it's from your own number,
Oh, wow.
which is like already weird.
That's a little unsettling right off the bat.
Right. Super weird. And the text says, "Hey, you see you wearing that blue jacket. Nice choice."
Okay.
Kind of casual, right? But then it gets super specific. It goes on to describe like everything you did the day before.
Oh, wow.
Like where you went, who you were, with what you ate, like all this stuff you'd never post online.
That's really creepy.
Yeah. So, like, immediately you get this feeling of, like, violations right.
Absolutely. You're suddenly very aware that you're being watched.
Totally.
Yeah.
And, like, your apartment right, your safe space, suddenly feels anything but safe.
Yeah, every corner feels like it could be hiding a camera.
Exactly.
It's really unnerving to think about.
So what's so freaky about this first message, right, is how personal it is.
Right.
And how this stalker just knows so much.
Right.
It's not like some vague threat. It's like laser focused.
Exactly. And what we often see in these cases is that stalkers are actually incredibly resourceful.
Yeah.
They can take these seemingly insignificant bits of information that we all leave online and piece them together to create this really unsettling picture of someone's life.
Right. So it's not like they need to be some super hacker
Exactly.
to get this info.
Right. It's often stuff that's just out there, if you know where to look.
So like in the texts, you know, this person is freaking out, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're trying to call their phone company like a million times.
Sure.
But the phone company's like, nope, everything looks normal on our end.
Oh, jeez.
But obviously something is very, very wrong.
Right.
And then they start hearing every little noise in their apartment.
Right.
Like the floor creaking or whatever.
Yeah, every shadow seems suspicious.
And they're like convinced someone's watching them.
That must be absolutely terrifying.
And then just as they're like, okay, I'm going to the police, they get another text that says, heading to the police, they won't help, turn around.
Oh, wow.
Like the stalker knows what they're thinking before they even do anything.
Right. That's a level of control that's really chilling. Like they're trying to cut off every avenue of escape before the victim can even try.
Totally. It's like they're trapped.
Exactly. And that feeling of being trapped is often what a stalker is going for. It's a way to maintain dominance.
So at this point, you know, this person's just totally freaked out.
Yeah.
And they decide to call a friend, like a close friend, for help.
Makes sense. You need someone you trust in a situation like this.
Yeah, totally. Someone to like ground them.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
because
Yeah.
they're just like losing it.
Yeah.
And so they go to the police station together
Okay.
with this friend. And, you know, the whole time they're looking over their shoulders, just like terrified.
I can only imagine.
So they get to the station and the cops are like, okay, we'll do a forensic sweep of your phone.
Right.
Like a deep dive into all the digital activity. And they say, go somewhere safe while we do this.
Okay.
So there's like a tiny bit of hope, right? Like maybe the police can figure this out,
Right.
but that hope doesn't last long.
Oh, no.
Because guess what happens?
What?
Even at the friend's house, even at this safe place, another text comes through.
No way.
Because running to your friend's house won't save you.
Oh.
So it's like this stalker is relentless.
Right.
They don't care about the police. They don't care about anything.
They're just escalating the situation, trying to make the victim feel even more helpless.
Exactly. And it's working.
Yeah.
Because now it's not just about the victim's apartment anymore.
Right.
It's about anyone they're close to.
Yeah. Anyone who tries to help becomes a target.
So they're totally isolated.
Yeah.
So they spend the night at the friend's house just like completely on edge.
Right.
Can't sleep. Every little noise freaks them out.
I bet.
And then the next morning, the police call with some really bad news.
Oh, no. What did they find?
The messages. They weren't coming from some remote hacker or anything. They were coming from inside the victim's own apartment.
What? So someone had actually been in their home.
Yeah. There was a device planted in there somewhere.
Oh, my God. That is so violated. Like the idea that someone has been watching you in your most private space.
That's exactly what the victim said.
Yeah.
Like it just completely shattered their sense of safety.
Right. It makes you realize that even your home isn't really safe.
So the police go back to the apartment and they search like every inch.
Sure.
And they find it. This tiny little device, like the size of a coin, hidden in a ventilation grate.
Oh.
And it was like live streaming everything back to the stalker.
Oh, gosh. So it wasn't just recording, it was broadcasting live.
Yeah. Like every single moment was being watched in real time.
That's so creepy. It's like they wanted to be right there in the apartment with the victim. Yeah. It's a whole other level of intrusion.
So obviously the victim is just like beside themselves at this point.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
I mean, how long had this been going on? What else had this stalker seen?
It's the not knowing that's so scary.
Yeah. So they change all the locks, obviously.
Of course.
Disable all the smart cameras, encrypt their Wi-Fi,
Smart moves.
anything to like feel a little bit safer.
Right.
And the friend stays with them, you know, for support.
Yeah.
The police try to trace the spyware, but the trail goes cold, like offshore.
So they hit a dead end.
Pretty much. And then one last text comes to the victim's phone You're lucky this time.
Oh, wow.
And that's it. No more messages. The victim throws the phone away like it's cursed.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
And they try to rebuild their life,
Right.
go back to normal. But it's hard.
Of course. How do you ever really feel safe again after something like that?
Right. Like, how do you know it's really over?
Exactly. And unfortunately, in many cases, it's not really over.
Oh, no. You're saying the stalker comes back?
It's sadly pretty common. They might lay low for a while, but they often resurface.
Oh, so this victim, they start to feel a little bit better. Like maybe it's finally over.
Yeah.
You're starting to get back into a routine.
Go ahead.
And then a few months later, a package arrives.
A package.
Yeah. No return address, no name, just a plain box.
Oh, that's creepy.
Right. So, of course, they're like terrified to open it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to open that.
But curiosity wins out.
Yeah, I get it.
So they open it, and inside there's a USB drive.
A USB drive.
And on the drive, there's one folder, and it's called Missed You.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So they plug it in and look at the files.
Yeah.
And the files are all recent,
Oh,
like
gosh.
from the past week.
So the stalker is back?
They're back,
Yeah.
and they're watching,
What kind of files were they?
just like details about the victim's life.
Mm.
Grocery lists, errands, they ran places they went. And then a message pops up on the screen. It says, "Did you really think it was over?"
Oh, wow. So not only are they back, they're making sure the victor knows it.
Right. It's like they want to keep the victim in a constant state of fear.
Yeah, that's a really classic power move for a stalker.
So the victim starts going through these files really carefully,
Okay.
and they notice some weird patterns,
Patterns? Like what?
like little things in the background of some of the footage, almost like clues.
Interesting.
And then they check their building's security camera logs, and there's nothing.
Nothing.
No sign of any breaches, no unauthorized access.
Mm.
But the timestamps on the USB files match up perfectly with the victim's movement.
So how are they getting this footage?
Right. It's like the stalker either predicting their every move or somehow they're there without being seen.
That's really unsettling.
Totally. And the friend is helping, they're going through all this footage frame by frame, and they spot something in a few of the grocery store clips.
Yeah.
There's a shadow in the background, a hooded figure, their face always hidden.
Okay, that's definitely creepy.
But the police are like, nah, it's probably nothing, just a coincidence.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, they didn't have any hard proof that it was the stalker.
That must be so frustrating. Like, you know something's wrong, but you can't prove it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then a few days later, the victim gets another text, "Check your mailbox."
Uh-oh.
And in the mailbox, there's a Polaroid picture of the victim.
A Polaroid?
Yeah, like a physical photo.
Wow. So they're not just hiding behind technology anymore. They're getting up close and personal.
Right. And it was taken that morning.
That's terrifying. It means they were close enough to take the picture and then deliver it.
Yeah. So now the victim is like really, really freaking out.
Yeah, they're not safe anywhere.
They upgrade their security again, but it's like, what's the point?
Right. It feels like the stalker is always one step ahead.
They can't sleep. They're constantly checking the cameras, just waiting for the next move.
I can't imagine the stress.
And then the friend notices something in the Polaroid photo.
Oh. What did they see?
A reflection in a store window.
A reflection of what?
A partial license plate number.
Okay. Could that be a lead?
Yeah, they hope so.
Yeah.
So the friend is like amazing with tech,
Mm-hmm.
and they cross-reference the partial plate with traffic camera footage
Wow.
and manage to identify a vehicle.
Great.
But it's registered to a shell corporation.
A shell corporation.
Yeah, like a fake company used to hide the real owner.
So another dead end?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a hunch about a warehouse connected to this corporation.
Okay.
So they drive there in the middle of the night,
Oh, wow.
and they find a note. It says, "You're warmer now." So the stalker's playing with them like it's a game.
Yeah, it's a really messed up power dynamic.
Back at the safe house, they find something else. A burner phone.
A burner phone.
Yeah, it was like left there on purpose.
Who was on it?
A bunch of encrypted messages, but one image wasn't encrypted.
And what was the image?
A photo of the victim and the friend, taken through a window they thought was secure.
Oh, no. So the safe house wasn't safe at all?
Nope. And then they find another device hidden in a smoke detector in the friend's house.
Oh, wow. So now the stalker's targeting the friend, too.
Yeah. It's like they want to cut the victim off from
Because
everyone.
they have no one to turn to.
Right. So at this point, they're just desperate,
Yeah.
and they decide to try something risky.
What do they do?
They try to bait the stalker.
Hate them. How?
They create fake routines.
Take routine.
Yeah, like they set up cameras and GPS trackers
Okay.
and post fake schedules online.
So they're trying to lure the stalker out into the open?
Exactly. And it seems to work.
Yeah.
Because a few days later, they see a figure on one of the cameras.
The stalker.
They think so. It's the hooded figure again.
So they call the police.
Yeah. But when the police get there, there's no one there.
Yeah.
Just a message spray painted on the wall.
What did it say?
Cute try.
Oh my God.
And then their burner phone pings with a final image. It's the friend's home address circled in red.
So they're escalating again.
Yeah, it's like nothing can stop them.
This stalker seems incredibly resourceful and organized. Like, they might have help.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah, it's a lot for one person to manage.
So the friend's house becomes like a fortress.
Right.
Motion sensors, cameras everywhere. They're barely sleeping, just constantly checking the footage.
Looking for any clue.
Yeah, any sign of the stalker.
This must be exhausting.
Totally. And then a neighbor mentions seeing a suspicious figure near the trash cans.
Okay.
And there's a grainy image on the doorbell camera that seems to confirm it. But the police were like, it could be anyone.
Ugh, I hate when that happens. Like, they're not taking the threat seriously enough.
Yeah. But the victim and the friend, they're not giving up.
Good.
So they come up with another plan.
What do they do this time?
They leak fake medical records online.
Fake medical records?
Yes, saying the victim has to go to a specific clinic for an appointment.
So they're hoping the stalker will show up there.
Exactly. They set up surveillance at the clinic and wait.
Does the stalker take the bait?
They do. A figure matching the description shows up with a camera.
So they got him.
Not quite. They manage to disappear into the subway before the police can catch them.
Oh, no. So close.
And then a text comes through. Clever. But I'm not the one you should fear.
What does that even mean?
They don't know. But then they find something else on the burner drive. A new folder.
What's in the folder?
News clippings from like decades ago. About unsolved disappearances.
Unsolved disappearances.
Yeah. And the victims in the articles, they look familiar, like people the victim knows or has seen around.
Oh, wow. So this is bigger than they thought.
Way bigger.
Yeah.
They track down a retired detective who worked on one of the cases.
And what does he say?
He calls them the Watchers. Says they're not individuals, they're a system. And they target people based on their routines.
The Watchers. That's chilling.
Yeah. And he warns them that the stalker is just a small part of something much larger.
Oh my God.
So the friend decides they have to disappear.
Disappear, like completely.
Yeah. They change their name, move to a new city, a new apartment, try to vanish.
And does it work?
For a few hours. But then a package arrives at the new apartment. A housewarming gift.
Oh no.
Inside, there's a vintage film reel. And when they play it, it's footage of the friend's childhood home.
What? How did they get that?
They don't know. But there's a note with it. It says, we've always been here.
This is like a nightmare. They can't escape.
No matter what they do, the Watchers are always there, watching, waiting.
It's like they're playing with them, like there's some kind of experiment.
So they start going through the film really carefully, looking for clues.
Yeah. Do they find anything?
They do. Hidden symbols etched into the film. And those symbols match markings found in old police reports.
We unsolved disappearances.
Yeah. It connects the Watchers to a network of powerful people. Judges, tech moguls, even cops.
Wow. So this goes really deep.
Really deep. And it seems like they target anyone who threatens their power or their interests.
It's like a conspiracy.
And then the burner phone rings. And this creepy AI voice says, you're part of the story now. Play your role or become a footnote.
Oh my God.
And then they realize something. The friend's parent had filed a whistleblowing lawsuit years ago against a powerful corporation.
So the stalking wasn't random, it was inherited.
Yeah. Like they were targeted because of something their parent did.
That's messed up.
So they try to run again, but every safe house gets compromised, every alias is leaked.
They can't hide.
And then the friend disappears, leaving a note that says, don't trust anyone.
Oh no. What happened to them?
They don't know. But there's one last clue. A cipher hidden in the film, real symbols.
And it leads them somewhere.
To an old abandoned theater.
It's at the theater.
Rows of screens showing live feeds of people. Banks of servers humming in the dark. And a figure emerges. Their face is obscured, but their voice is cold and robotic.
And what do they say?
They say the Watchers are obsessed with control, with turning people into data. And they stage the friend's disappearance as a warning.
A warning to who?
To the victim. And they give them a choice. Join them or become another victim.
What do they do?
They just a third option. They overload the servers and burn the theater to the ground.
Wow.
They destroy all the evidence, but they know it's probably not enough.
The Watchers are still out there?
Watching, waiting.
That's terrifying.
And what did we learn from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that surveillance technology is incredibly powerful and it can be used for really sinister purposes.
Yeah, and it's not just about government spying on us anymore. It could be anyone.
Right. And it's getting harder and harder to protect ourselves.
So what can we do?
Well, we need to be aware of the risks. We need to be careful about what information we share online. And we need to demand better privacy protections from our governments and from tech companies.
Yeah, because this story, it's not just a story, it's a warning.
Absolutely. It shows us what can happen when surveillance technology falls into the wrong hands.
And it makes you wonder what else is going on out there that we don't know about.
Right. Like how many other people are being watched, manipulated, controlled without even realizing it?
That's a really scary thought.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something we all need to be thinking about.
Absolutely. We need to be vigilant. We need to be aware. And we need to fight for our right to privacy.
So that's it for today's deep dive. But the conversation doesn't end here. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this unsettling story? Have you ever experienced anything similar? Let us know in the comments below. And stay safe out there, because you never know who's watching.